Chosen one, I need you to stop for just a moment. Not because of the content of what I am about to share, because of what you were about to do. Because something in you, in the 30 seconds before you made the decision to stay, was already running the familiar calculation, already measuring the opening against every other opening you have heard before, already scanning for the signals that would let it file this under known territory and move on. Already preparing the move it has been practicing for longer than you realize. The move that says that it knows where this going. I have heard something like this before. I can come back to this later. Before that calculation is done, I need you to understand something about it. That calculation doesn't show how smart you are. That calculation is not being smart. Your calculations are the only thing that has kept you where you are. It almost worked again today. There has been an effort to stop you from getting what's in this message. I want to be clear about that. And I want you to pay attention. Things that were important to you were put in front of you, at least 3 times in the last 30 days. When I name it, you can feel it. Something that was heavy. What if you had stuck with it all the way through? It would have moved you in a way that has been waiting to be moved. Every time, something got in the way before the full force of the impact could hit. The task that seemed important right away turned out to be a calculation that said, "This could wait." This is not a random pattern. The timing of the interference isn't a fluke. The urge to skip comes on strongest right when something new and exciting is about to arrive. That isn't a mistake. That is meant to. Before this message started, God said these things about you. He stated, "This person has been close, closer than they know, closer than they have felt. There is a threshold they have been approaching from different angles for a long time, and the thing that has been keeping them from crossing it is not their character and not their faith. It is a groove, a deeply worn automatic response that fires before the conscious mind has time to decide anything different." That is not anger in those words. Pay attention to this. The anger that God is sending your way right now is not because you have pulled back. It's important for you. It's the intensity of a dad who can see things his kid can't, who knows what's on the other side of the line, who knows how close this person has been, and how important it is for them to cross it now. Not mad at you, but fired up about you. There is a big difference between them. Something is telling you to skip this, because it's scared of what will happen if you don't. That is worth thinking about because the urge to skip doesn't go after empty messages. It keeps its energy in reserve. The things that can actually break the pattern are hit the hardest by the gun. And the fact that you felt it at the start of this message and kept reading is proof of what's going on. This is the full shape of the pattern. You need to be able to see it clearly from the outside before I can show you how to get out of it. You can no longer be held back by something in the pattern when you see it clearly. This is how it works. I can be sure that a certain person is in what I call the almost cycle if I see 5 certain patterns. The cycle of getting closer to the point where real change can happen, and then pulling back one step before the door opens. The cycle that makes you feel like you're being sincere, but never quite gets to where all that sincerity should be leading you. The first pattern is the fast forward in the spiritual life. You eat and drink more than most people around you. Teachings, messages, and content that back up what you already believe, and teach you more about what you already know. You are not spiritually lagging behind. You are spiritually busy. But over time, the activity has turned into a way to stay close to the change you want, without going into the details of what it takes. You understand the idea. You still don't live by the idea. It's still just an idea in your head. Since the difference between what you know and how you live has been there for so long, it seems like a permanent part of your life, rather than a problem with a clear cause and a clear solution. The second pattern is the loop that asks for permission. You can hear the call. You can really feel it. You know it's real, and where it's going because of something inside you. After that, you get into the loop. It sounds like you want more proof. You need one more sign, so that there is no risk in the response. You want the conditions to be just right. The window moves on without you while you wait for the certainty that will let you move without fear. Not because God took back the invitation, but because it was meant to happen at a certain time, and you knew about it. This is the third pattern, strategic overwhelm. When something really important comes up, something that has real weight and real demand, your nervous system fills the scene with everything else that needs your attention right away. The 50 things become important all of a sudden. The message only gets 4 minutes instead of 30. This isn't because you don't care, but because caring about something that needs real change is really scary for a nervous system that has learned over years of experience that change is bad. And feeling overwhelmed isn't a weakness. It's a way to keep you safe. That's exactly what it was made to do. But it's now being used against the wrong things. The fake response is the fourth pattern. Something seems to change, and something in the message hits you hard. You feel like doing something, so you do a small thing. You send the message. You put it away for now. You write something down. You really mean what you say when you say, Amen. Something inside you sees the small action as proof that you responded, and the pressure goes away. And they never get the real answer they were asking for. One of the most powerful parts of the almost cycle is the counterfeit response, which makes you feel good when it happens. The fifth pattern is a window that gets smaller over time. Each time you get close to the threshold of real transformation, and then back away, it gets harder to get close to the next time. Not because God is pulling away, but because the pattern of retreat has become more solidified after another go. And the feeling of almost is so well known that the approach itself begins to feel like arrival. There have been so many times when you were close that it felt like enough. Please know that every seed you plant in this mission grows into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. But more than your support, we want your presence. When you head to our community through the link in the description or the pinned comment, you aren't just visiting a site. You are entering a community of like minded believers. This is a sanctuary where you can post your prayer requests, lift up the burdens of others, and engage in daily discussions with a family that speaks the language of faith. Whether you are joining one of our membership tiers for deeper study, sowing a seed of faith, or simply joining our daily morning prayers, you are helping us build a global altar of worship. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through a community that stands together. Each gift you give acts as living water for those in our community seeking healing and hope. Give, and it will be given to you, is the promise that sustains our shared mission. I invite you now to step out of the shadows and into this circle of prayer. Come with purpose. Join the conversation, and plant your seed in fertile ground. Let's open the heavens together. Release your seed today, join our community, and see what God brings back into your life. If you don't mind, let me tell you something about the time this message was sent. There's a window. There is a time in the life of a chosen one when the pattern can be broken more completely than at other times. You have been in that season when the number of almosts has built up to the point where the person is ready to stop, stopping at the edge of their breakthrough, and pulling back. That is exactly what I said. Because there are clear signs of it in the way this message reached you. And the reason something in you wanted to skip it. The window isn't permanent because God takes it away, but because the patterns that keep it safe get stronger each time they're used. What could be interrupted 6 months from now will need more work to be interrupted. The interruption you are likely to experience right now, in this message, is the cleanest version that you can see. This is the message you weren't supposed to get. So, the calculation started at the beginning. This is also the reason why staying right now is the most important thing you can do for what you've been waiting for. The most important thing to know about these 5 patterns is that they all share one thing. They're not sins. They are not proof that you are not serious, that you were not chosen, or that you are not able to do what you feel called to do. They have changed over time. They are smart, logical responses from a nervous system that has been through enough disappointment, false starts, and close calls that didn't deliver what they promised, that it built a system to protect you from the kind of hope that makes you tired. That system worked for you when it was made. It did its job. The problem is that you've worn it past the time it was made for. And now the protection is getting in the way. Right now, type 777 in the comments if you can see even 2 of those patterns in yourself. Because what we're going to talk about next is how the pattern ends, not how to handle it better. When people with a real calling go through the almost cycle, it can be hard to figure out why. This is something that most spiritual teachings don't prepare you for. The most common version of the message says that having a clear goal makes the way easier. Knowing that you have been chosen takes away the stress of the journey. Being deeply spiritually aware makes things smoother than they would be otherwise. It doesn't. In most cases, the most persistent and well-targeted resistance is met by those with the deepest calling. And the reason isn't just a guess. How deeply someone is being formed to carry something is related to how intensely they are being formed. The resistance is not proof that the person does not want to follow the calling. Most of the time, resistance is from the calling doing what it needs to do to make someone strong enough to hold what has been given to them. However, this is where the almost cycle comes in. For people with deep calling, the formation process takes a long time, doesn't go in a straight line, and doesn't give them consistent outside feedback that it is working. It requires coming face to face with the threshold of transformation many times. And many of those times don't lead to the immediate result that would show the process is moving forward. And after a while, someone who really wants to become and do what they were made to do can reach a certain level of exhaustion that doesn't feel like burnout. It seems like smart caution. It feels like I've learned something from this. People who have put hope in things before and know what it's like to lose that hope when the return didn't live up to expectations would probably think this way. That is the most advanced form of the almost cycle. The point where the person's defense system takes over and makes them believe that it is their own wisdom speaking. I'm going to show you two people from the sacred record who were very much a part of this. Because seeing what happened to them lets you see what is going on with you without the judgment that comes up when you look at yourself too closely. Moses is the first. In particular, Moses at Meribah, near the end of his work as a leader. For 40 years, they took people through the wilderness. 40 years of standing between them and the consequences they had caused themselves, stepping in for them when they failed, and taking on the weight of their doubt, rebellion, and repeated return to the same patterns of mistrust. A man with a unique personality and sense of duty. Something different from how other people knew God was this man that the text says God knew him face to face. The people were thirsty again at Meribah, and God told Moses not to hit the rock but to talk to it. Talk to it. But Moses didn't say anything to the rock, because he had been carrying 40 years of weight, and seeing what happened when he showed patience and grace to people who used it, and then went on with their lives. He hit it twice. It rained. God told Moses, "You will not bring these people into the land I have promised." What I want you to see in that story is not that they disobeyed. What was under it is what I want you to see. At that point, Moses was pulling from the weight of all the times he had put his trust in the process, and ended up back where he started. His answer was not rebellion. That was the nervous system's automatic response after being pushed past too many limits. It had finally reached a point where the conscious response could not override the automatic one. In the sacred record, he was about to do something that would have ended one of the longest arcs of formation. But before he could make a choice, the worn groove of frustrated repetition fired. The thing that broke Moses out of the almost cycle wasn't a lack of faith or love. The gun fired in a way that had been learned over many years of real-life experience. He finally lost the thing he had been working toward for longer than most people hold on to anything. It was a pattern that made sense in every season that built it. He wasn't left alone by God. The calling didn't go away. That man had been shaped by love that stayed with him through 40 years of unwavering loyalty. But the pattern came with a price. and God was honest about it. Because that's what love does, when it has earned the right to be honest. Joshua is the second person. In particular, Elijah right after Mount Carmel, which was the most impressive public display of God's power during his ministry. From the outside, that moment should have been proof of everything he had been thinking for years of being faithful to her alone. He stood alone against a lot of people and won. He did what he was made to do and was sent to do it. After that, he ran into the woods by himself, sat down under a tree, and begged to die. Why would someone run away from their fate when it's about to confirm it the most? Because breakthrough doesn't automatically reset the system inside the person that kept them together during the long formation period that came before it. Because the nervous system and the body don't know that something has changed on the outside. Their settings are still the same ones that kept them safe during the hard season, and that's the only reality they know how to deal with. That system was still going after Carmel. It was set to survival, isolation, and the kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying something heavy by yourself for a long time. The outside conditions changed. The settings inside had not been changed yet. One of the most important parts of the Holy Book for understanding what this message is about is what God said to Elijah at that time. He didn't tell Elijah that he failed to keep the momentum going after what happened at Carmel. He sent an angel to feed him twice and let him sleep. When his body was ready, he spoke to him in the still, small voice, not in the earthquake, the fire, or the wind, which were the types of power that matched Elijah's previous experience of how God worked. In the quiet, and in the way that the worn-out, almost cyclist, running person could actually receive it. I also want to briefly talk about a man who told me about the same experience in different words. This man is not a character from an ancient text. He said he had been honest for years, done the practices, stuck to the teachings, and kept going back to the edge of what he was supposed to be. But he kept hitting a wall he couldn't name. There was something deeper than what discipline and honesty could do. He said it didn't seem like a spiritual issue as much as a mechanical one. It seemed like something about the way he was built wasn't working right, and he didn't need more faith or discipline to fix it. What he really needed was for the moving part to be fixed. That difference is very important. It ties together everything I've said so far with what I'm going to show you next in this message. This is what I want you to hold right now. The grace that was shown in those old stories is the same grace that you can have right now. The right place for God to meet Moses and Elijah was not where they were. He met them right where they were, being honest and giving them the help they needed. The pattern has been going for a while now. So you are ready for the break in a way you might not have been ready before. That's why this message is seeing you now. Not right now, when everything is perfectly ready. When there is a real need. Let me hold something up for you before we move on to the next part. Neuroscientists led by a doctor in New York, who has studied this for 20 years, found out why the almost cycle happens at a level of depth that most people who practice spirituality and are mentally aware have not been able to reach. Something that has to do with the Nobel Prize Something that makes a solution clearer than most of the things you've tried so far. What they found will be in the next part of this message. But think about this question again now. What if how long you've been stuck in the same pattern doesn't show how spiritually strong you are, or how hard you've really tried? What if it's a way to measure how far apart people are that goes below the level where sincerity and effort work? Did you know that the answer might be easier and more direct than everything you've tried so far? Hold on to that. We'll get back to it. Feel free to type, "I see it," in the comments if you think this describes you. If you feel like the almost cycle is starting, there are 3 things you can do. It's not about general rules or developing attitudes over time. There are 3 concrete answers to the exact moment when the usual calculation starts to run, when the urge to skip comes on, as soon as the filter starts to work, when a part of you says, "You already know where this is going." These 3 practices are not meant to change you into a better person who is willing to break the pattern. The idea behind them is to stop the pattern right where it is working. The first one is the pivot for recognition. This is how it works. You won't fight the urge to skip the beginning of something important the next time it comes up. You don't fight it. You don't tell yourself to keep going. You say one sentence to yourself, because of what you now know that changes everything about that moment. You say, "This intensity means something important is here." The urge to skip doesn't spread itself evenly among all the things that are coming in. It works well. It keeps its energy in reserve. The things that could break the pattern it has been keeping are the ones that it fires at with the most force. When something comes up and the calculation fires at a very high level right away, that level of intensity is not proof that you have seen this before and can move on. That level of intensity is a sign that what you're seeing is exactly what the pattern wants to keep you from getting. The signal is read again by the recognition pivot. If the intensity is high, you should not filter and move on. Instead, it means you should slow down and stay. Rereading that one time breaks the automatic sequence, since the automatic sequence only works if the signal stays the same. If you change what the signal means, the sequence will no longer be triggered. Do this often. Start out small, not with the heaviest things. Start with the next normal thing that makes you want to skip, and decide to say the sentence instead of letting the math run. If the sound is this loud, it means that something important is nearby. Stay for 3 minutes and see what comes. Once you know what the skip urge is, it can't pretend to be something else. If you do this regularly, the urge to skip will start to lose its ability to pass itself off as wisdom. No matter what, it can't show up as discernment. If it wants to hide itself, it can only show itself as the pattern it is. It's also not as useful to use a pattern that has already been named and understood. The second practice is the 3-minute extension, which brings us to the end. When you feel the urge to skip, you decide to give it 3 more minutes. Not to finish or to think about whether it's worth your full attention, just 3 more minutes. This works because of this. There is the most speed for the almost cycle in the abstract. Thinking about what might be in something. before it has fully arrived is called pattern matching. It has nothing to do with the actual content of what is being offered. It is also true that pattern matching can only see things it has seen before. It can't see what's different about this particular meeting. The 3-minute extension is the act of delaying judgment long enough for the content to deliver something that the prediction could not have predicted. If something real is present, something will land in 3 minutes. Some sentence, image, or recognition will come up that wouldn't have come up if the calculation had been allowed to finish. And that new information will change everything about the decision to stay or not. You don't have to say right away if you're going to stay for the whole thing. You only need to stay for 3 more minutes, and then 3 more minutes if that's all it takes. The almost cycle can't last with this practice, because it takes away the one thing the pattern needs to work, which is the moment of judgment before the arrival. The extra 3 minutes are also slowly adding up to something. When you fight the urge to skip something, and something important happens, in the 3 minutes you stayed, your nervous system creates a new type of evidence. Not evidence given by a teacher or message, but evidence from your own life. There is evidence that staying does something that leaving does not, and your nervous system, which is based on learning patterns, starts to change the pattern to match. Engagement of the body is the 3rd practice. It works on a different level than the first 2, because the first 2 focus on the mental and behavioral parts of the almost cycle. This one is about the physiological side of things. Your body is in a certain state when the urge to skip is strong. There is a slight tightness in the chest. A little less air is being breathed in than usual. The posture makes you feel like you're holding back, like you haven't decided yet if what's coming is safe to receive. And that state of the body sends signals to the nervous system that make the filtering mode stronger. The body and the mind are both doing the same math, but in their own languages. This makes each other stronger. This is what the body engagement practice is. As soon as you feel the urge to skip, stand up straighter before you do anything else. Take what is crossed off. Do not hold yourself up. Leave one hand on your chest with the palm facing down. Pay attention to how slowly you breathe. Only do this 2 or 3 times. Breathe in for 4 counts, breathe out for 6. It's not like you're trying to make people feel open. You are getting rid of the physical position of contraction, so that openness can exist if it is there. The research also shows that the body controls the nervous system. If you practice the posture of reception, every time you feel the urge to skip, it will eventually become the norm instead of the exception. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our Ko-Fi community. By doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to save souls who are still stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself, Jesus says. This is not history, it is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. I want to bring this to the present with you right now. I really want you to do this. If you've been holding your shoulders tight, let them fall. Let go of your jaw. Loosen your grip on anything you have in your hands. Put one hand in the middle of your chest and feel it there. Take it easy on the breathing. Stay the same and don't change anything. Do everything at the same speed as before, but change your posture to receive. While you're in that position, I want you to hold an image. This is the picture you in 6 months. That version of you didn't make the right choice when this message told you to. It wasn't a perfect or impossible version. A version that let the interruption happen, didn't respond with the fake message, and didn't answer the real message. That stayed for 3 minutes, then 3 more, and so on, until the thing that was always available turned into the thing that was received. How do you feel inside when you're that person? How do they go about their normal day that is different from other people? What fell into the body that was floating in the head before? Think about that picture for long enough so that it starts to feel like more than just your imagination. That picture is not made up. This is a list of what is actually available. What you do in the next few minutes will directly affect how much closer you are to getting there than you were before today. Now, you know something you didn't know when this message started. The almost cycle isn't just a mental pattern that needs to be dealt with better. It's not just a spiritual pattern that changes when more faith is put into the same systems. That address is not where it runs. It runs at a deeper level. It works on a physiological level. On the level of how everything in modern life has changed the structure of your brain to stop it from being open and deep like your calling needs. Putting in more effort with what you've already done won't get you anywhere. The solution lies in bringing back what the adaptation pushed down. This restoration is specific, has been proven, can be traced back to a Nobel Prize, and is available in a way that is much easier and more direct than anything you have seen before. A form that doesn't require you to learn a new skill or start a new habit, and builds on the disconnect that's already there. A form that talks about the disconnection itself. That's what makes what comes next different from everything else you've tried. There's nothing else to do. What has been stopping what you do from landing the way it was always meant to land will be fixed. The thing that holds this all together is this. You are not the kind of person who doesn't have the skills to reach your goals. You are someone whose abilities have been working at a very low level compared to what they were designed to do. And the fraction doesn't say anything about who you are. This is a physiological state that has a physiological answer. I get type in the comments because what comes next is the answer. Most people who are interested in what we're talking about have never heard of this study. There was no spiritual background to it. It was from a research center. It won the Nobel Prize in 1981. Roger Sperry was given this award for his work on what he called split brain function. The brain has 2 hemispheres, or sides, a left side and a right side. Sperry proved this through decades of careful research. It is also thought that these 2 halves are meant to work together. When people are in sync and communicating fully coherently, they are able to do certain things that they can't do when they are only partially connected. We call this whole brain activation. When we study it, it is the state where real openness and depth are possible. It is also the state where the intuitive knowing that chosen ones say is their most reliable compass is clear, consistent, and usable, instead of shifting and being hard to trust. The state in which knowing something and living from it become more and more similar. The study also shows the following. Your brain was already in this state when you were young. Because the brain is still working the way it was meant to when a child is young, 98% of them test at the level of creative genius. The synchronization happens naturally, without any problems, and all the time. There is no space between what the child sees and what they do. There's no physical space between the invitation and the first step through the door. It was just the brain working the way it was meant to work that made it look like genius. Then, over time, the synchronization gets worse because of stress, performance pressure, the fast pace of modern life, and the constant stimulation that keeps the system in survival and analysis mode. The left side of the brain takes over. This makes the right hemisphere quiet, which is in charge of depth intuition and the ability to receive without immediately sorting and filtering. According to the study, less than 1% of adults still have the same level of whole brain activation that they had when they were kids. As a spiritual metaphor, this is not true. This is what the data from the brain shows. Steve Jobs said that his most important skill was being able to leave a problem open without solving it right away. Nikola Tesla said that his most important ideas didn't come to him during long periods of hard work, but during periods of silence that followed hard work. These are words that describe how activating the whole brain feels on the inside. A study by Dr. Sperry showed that this state is not a gift that some people have and others do not. It is built into the way our brains work. It's the setting that everyone is born with. The only question is whether the design works the way it was meant to, or whether modern life has slowly harmed the synchronization. Think about what that means for the almost cycle. It is only possible for half of the brain to work when the hemisphere that controls depth and receptivity is quiet. The processing power needed for sustained, open, unfiltered receiving, which is what a call needs. The kind that lets something land at the transformation level, instead of just the information level. Disconnection that has been building since childhood has made that ability less useful. This is why the almost cycle stays the same even after years of serious spiritual practice. Not because the practice was wrong, but because it was being done on a brain that wasn't working at nearly its full potential. When you try to play a piece of music on an instrument with half of the strings loose, it sounds terrible. Even though there is real effort and intention, there isn't enough capacity. More effort, a better framework, or more advanced teaching won't help. The instrument needs to be retuned. This is what was taken. This is what the first hint in this message meant. Not something outside of this message. Like a call that was cancelled, or a door that was shut from the other side. What slowly moved over years was the part of the brain that makes receiving at depth feel normal. The state that was present when you were a child, and that the almost cycle needs to be absent in order to keep going. An American woman wrote to Dr. Barone to tell him about what happened to her. For years, she had been honest and taken every practice seriously, but she kept coming back to the same point. At one point, she said, she felt like the problem wasn't her willingness, she felt like she was willing and sincere enough. Instead, she said, something below that level was what was stopping her. She said something got better after 10 days of what I'm about to describe. The blocked channel was now open. What she had been believing as doctrine became real to her. Not because she worked harder, but because the receiver was fixed. A man from Texas talked about a change that was similar. Someone who had spent years keeping things together for other people while his own life got thin and far away. As if he were talking into a wall. Prayer had begun to feel like the frequency was right, but the receiver was off. After 2 weeks, he woke up and said that his mind was making all the right connections. He had stopped noticing the fog because it was always there, it was gone. He said that when he sat down in the morning, he felt like the connection was live for the first time in years. This is what a group of neuroscientists in New York led by Dr. Daniel Barron did for years. A whole brain activation protocol, used in specialized medical settings, was used for more than an hour. They took that and turned it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence by compressing and fine-tuning it a lot. 8 minutes a day, with headphones on and eyes closed. There you have it, the only physical requirement. The smart switch is what they call it. It's not a brainwave product, a meditation app, or a sound frequency that's meant to make you feel a certain way. It is a targeted auditory sequence that was created based on Dr. Roger Sperry's Nobel Prize-winning research to reconnect the two hemispheres and restore the whole brain activation that was the default state in childhood. This is the state in which receptivity is natural and depth is accessible. And the sequence closes the inner distance that the almost cycle needs to keep going. If you've tried binaural beats or brainwave products before and not been impressed, Dr. Barron talks about this right away. Brainwave products only work on a small part of the problem. Sound waves by themselves are not enough. What he and his team made aims to synchronize the two halves of the brain at the level of the whole brain, using a multi-layer protocol that was developed over many years of clinical testing. That's a different mechanism that leads to a different kind of result. In the ways that this technology came from, this level of neurological restoration would cost the following. Neurofeedback sessions with a trained professional that take place in person cost about $300 per session. Neurofeedback devices for home use that are made for doctors cost between $5,000 and $7,000. The price was carefully chosen by Dr. Barone and his team based on who they built this for. It was made for someone who is honest, has been working hard, and doesn't need to deal with another obstacle. Coworkers already said that the original price of $49 was very high for what it gives you. The link in the page's description takes you to there is an extra 10 price cut. It costs $39 for the access point. A guarantee that doesn't depend on time, not just 30. You can play the 8-minute slideshow just once, or every day for a few months. You can get your money back in full, if it doesn't work the way it has for the 18,000 people who have already used it. There are no conditions or questions. There are 4 more resources added. A guided visualization from a top Calm platform teacher. A grocery list of foods that, according to neuroscience research, actively suppress whole brain function with simple substitutions that can save you between $80 and $120 per month. A work from more than 100 years ago that most modern spiritual practices are based on. And a printable daily habits guide that supports the neurological conditions that allow whole brain activation to happen all day, instead of just during practice time. It's possible to find the link where Dr. Barone and his team put this up in the comment below, and the one that was pinned. Before you decide, you can read everything on their page. It's easy to see every detail. I want to say something directly to you, if what you heard today hits home. If there is something in what was said that your body understood as well as your mind did. People I've seen get out of the almost cycle and into the life they were meant to live, almost always talk about a specific time when they stopped waiting and did something. This could be that time. Kindly type, "I release," in the space below right now. Because, what you're letting go of is the version of the almost cycle that has been running on a brain that isn't connected. That version is now complete. Before I end, I'd like to bring up something that is still up in the air from everything that has happened so far. There is a reason why this message has been very clear, very long, and very broad. When someone tells you that you can't skip this, it's your job to make sure that what you stayed for was worth it. All the things we've talked about together have led to one recognition. There was nothing wrong with the almost cycle. It wasn't a matter of faith. Not being chosen, not being serious enough, or not being ready was not proof of that. You have been sitting with that address for the whole length of this message. It was a pattern that was built on a certain neurological and spiritual disconnect. Allow that to land. There was no chance in the pattern that had been following you for years. It was not permanent. And it wasn't who you really are. I want to talk about that one more time before we end, because it's easy to process this kind of information in the same way that the almost cycle processes everything else. To remember it as an insight, to feel the recognition, and then to put it away with the other things that almost changed something else. Today, we're not going to do that. This message didn't just give information, it did something else. It was the moment when the cycle stopped being based on biology. Do you understand what was said here? That's not the important question right now. It was sent to you. When something hits that level, the body always knows. The question is what will happen in the next few minutes, the next few options, and the next chance to either do what you knew to do, or let the almost cycle do what it always does, which is wait for a better time that never comes. I want to bring up something that was said near the start of this message. There's a window. Windows don't always stay open. Fear of being punished is not what makes a chosen one act quickly. It's the inner clarity that comes with being honest about something. The clear speech that says, "This is it. This is the one, and the almost cycle has taught the body to feel that way, and not do anything about it. We're going to do something different today. Right now, take a breath. Not a method, just a breath. Think about what you've heard today, and let it sink into the part of you that already knows what is true. The part of you that saw itself in this message, before your critical mind had a chance to decide if it was trustworthy. This part has been awake the whole time. It was the part of you that wouldn't look away. You know what you need to do next if you are being honest with yourself right now. Not in general, but in particular. Something that was meant to happen. Something that keeps getting close to the edge, but is put off. The message for today wasn't mostly about the genius switch. The genius switch is a tool, and it's a very good one. What you heard today was about the pattern that has been holding you back in your own life. The real reason the pattern has stayed the same over all the seasons is because of how hard you have worked on this. You have been picked. That doesn't mean anything good. It's about a person who was made to make a certain kind of impact, at a certain time with certain people who need what that person has to offer. And the almost cycle has been the main way that the purpose you were made for has been kept in draft mode. You can see it. It's close enough to touch. Never quite touched down. That's over now. Not because you chose to end it, but because you got information that took away its biological basis. The instrument is now in tune again. The receiver is now working again. There is only one thing left to do: walk through the door that has been open the whole time. I'd like to talk about what happens right after this video ends. In the next few hours, or maybe even minutes, the sense of recognition you're feeling now will start to fade. The clarity of the present moment will become a memory, instead of a living weight. This is fine. This is what makes the almost cycle work. When you realize something and then do something about it, that's when the cycle lives. It was made to survive that gap in particular. Now, do what I tell you to do. Not eventually, right now. Today is the day to act on the genius switch. The link is in the description below, and in the comment that was pinned. Before you end the video, click it. Let the clear moment lead you to the action that the clear moment is pointing you toward. 18,000 people made that choice, and wrote about what it was like to move from a life that was almost right for them to one that was right for them. And if this message made you think of something else, a conversation you've been putting off, a decision you've been putting off, a relationship, a project, or a step you have been putting off without fully admitting it to yourself, today is the day you make it happen. That's not true in theory. It's true in the next thing you do in 20 minutes. I'm glad you stayed. At the start, I said that God told me you couldn't skip this. From what I understand now, after going over this whole message with you, the instruction was not a warning. It was an answer. Right now, with what you heard today, and who you already are, you were led here to this message, and this very moment. It wasn't a mistake that they came together. It's possible to be a different person on the other side of the almost cycle. Not a version that is easy, or doesn't present any challenges. A version of you that faces challenges and hard times with all the power you were born with. Instead of just some of it, because your brain is running on disconnected hemispheres, and your spirit has been waiting at the door for too long. That version is not a goal for the future. That version of yourself is the real you. It has been the holding pattern for the almost version. There is no more holding pattern. Wait a second before you move. For a long time, you may have been carrying a burden, a grief, or an old story about who you are and what you can do. You no longer need that. It was never yours to keep a long time. It was the weight that the breakup made necessary. Put it down right now, in this spot. This message will not leave you with less than what you came in with. You are leaving with the knowledge that will change the course of what happens next. Take a deep breath. Let the acknowledgement turn into permission. The full version is allowed to be used. Allowance to walk through the door instead of standing next to it. Let yourself receive what was always meant for you at the exact point where it was meant to land. God doesn't plan things to be chosen and then leave them in the almost. That's not theology in this story. And that's not what people who have been through it and come out the other side say. What God does is keep coming back, keeping doors open, and keeping putting the right thing in the right place at the right time. This message told you. That's what you should do next with the clarity you have. You're not the person who almost made it. You are the one who did it. If you are somewhere you can, say that out loud. Say it out loud to yourself. I'm not an almost. I'm the whole thing. I'm now through the door. Say it until your body agrees with you. Say it until the part of you that has been coping with the gap between you and your purpose has nothing more to deal with. Because the brain connections that support the almost cycle are broken. The brain now has what it needs to close the space where the cycle has been living. The only thing left is the statement that fits with what really happened. I'm going to say it again with you. I'm not an almost. I'm the whole thing. I'm now through the door. I move like I know it too. Things don't just change when a chosen one stops managing the distance and starts moving from the full version. It's the state of being present. It's being able to sit with someone and be fully there, instead of only partly available, because half of your brain is still doing the old survival math in the background. Being able to find beauty, depth, and meaning in everyday things instead of just in high-stakes moments that feel rare and hard to keep up. Being able to hear the voice that has always been there and trust it without the delay that a brain that isn't connected adds between the signal and the response. This is the other side of the almost cycle. Not a bigger life in the outside sense, though that often happens next. A more crowded one. Please leave a comment below and tell me which part of this message hit you the hardest, if you could relate to what was said today. Talking about the almost circle, the neurological cause, the stories of Moses and Elijah, or the people who wrote to Dr. Barone. Please tell me which piece opened something. This group is based on the idea that we are not the only ones stuck in these patterns, and that there is a way out for anyone who is willing to stop just before the skip. That person is stuck in the almost cycle right now. They have been doing the work honestly, but keeps hitting the same invisible ceiling. Please share this video with them today, not tomorrow. today. You don't know which version of this message will let the other person see it. Also, the window doesn't stay open forever. Spread the word while it's still fresh. If you read the whole message, click like. The algorithm sees that as a sign to show this to more people who need it. We both know that some people need it. Sign up if you haven't already. This is a place for people who have been chosen and are ready to build the mental and spiritual foundations that will allow them to stay in the full version. The talk that took place today is connected to a bigger story. People who stick around for the whole thread are the ones who find that the almost cycle is less and less useful to them over time. They kept going back to the place where they were recognized, not because they worked harder, but because they wanted to be recognized again. I'll talk to you again in the next message. As the full version, you are about to enter your divine future. But remember, this breakthrough is not for you alone. Your testimony is the bridge someone else will use to reach their own miracle. Archangel Michael is inviting you to visit community through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. By joining our like-minded community, you are no longer praying in isolation. You are adding your voice to a global sanctuary, where we discuss the Word daily, and stand in the gap for one another. This is not poetry when Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you." On this platform, every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and a hedge of safety for your family. Now is your time. Step into our community prayer wall, share your heart, and as you give, watch God multiply what you let go of. Let's finish this journey together. Visit our community now, join the family, and see your heavens open. Before we get to the end of this powerful story, let's reflect on this deep truth. You did not find this message by accident. This is a divine appointment meant specifically for you. You are being invited into a protected, faith-filled community at the link in the description and pinned comment, a place where divine abundance is not just a hope, but a promise built on the Word. By heading to the site right now, you are unlocking access to a sacred community of like-minded believers. When you join our membership tiers, you gain immediate entry to powerful content, daily devotions, and divine insights that are hidden from the world. This is your chance to enter a sanctuary, where you will receive spiritual guidance, unwavering support on our prayer wall, and speedy progress toward your destiny. Do not let this moment of destiny pass you by. Your breakthrough is waiting. Join our inner circle through the exclusive link in the description. This is how you guarantee you never miss the personalized messages and spiritual warfare tools meant to elevate your life. If you feel called to deepen your connection, the link is waiting for you in both the pinned comment and the description. For those who want to amplify this work and carry the light home, you can find our guided ebooks and Bibles in the pinned comment. Whether you join as a member or sow a seed through our resources, your presence and energy change the world. Take the step. Your abundance awaits.